The new dungeon, Spire of the Watcher, has been out for about a week, and now it's time to give you a guide on how anybody can solo flawless this dungeon. Whether you want to rock some sweet cowboy armor, or maybe get your hands on some of the new weapons, or the new solar exotic bow, I'm going to be showing you how anybody can solo flawless this dungeon with ease. Now, some of you are probably thinking the only people that this is possible for is like a multiple world firsts raider like Salta Greppo, Glad with the mustache, or Esoteric. The answer to this is no, no, and no. I purposely made this guide for the average Destiny 2 player because you shouldn't have to be a Giga Chad to get a dungeon done. In fact, most of the guides I've seen use raid weapons, exotics, and other things that solo players can't earn. So instead, I'm going to show you how to do it with no raid weapons, no raid exotics, and all the gear that can be earned solo with multiple options so that anybody with a little bit of effort, time, and practice can get this solo flawless done. So let's start by getting loaded up with our gear and our options for this. The best class for staying alive is, of course, the Solar Titan. Now stop! I already know what some of you are typing in the comments. But MANO, I don't have a Solar Titan. All I have is a Warlock or a Hunter. Well, guess what, folks? All the strategies that we talk about here are going to be applicable to the other classes, and I'll be doing guides for those other classes as well, so get subscribed so you don't miss it. Rest easy, my keyboard warrior friends. Are we cool? Cool. Let's talk about artifact slots. I would not try to do this dungeon for my mental health without the solo operative mod. This mod gives you a 15% buff on damage, but also you can stack that with the weaken effect of the weaken clear mod, and each of them cost 5. It can go on any of your class items. You can do the dungeon without it, but this makes it much easier to do because you'll have fewer damage phases at the bosses. Trust me, wait until you get those two and then get ready to go. Next up, I'd make sure you have a grenade launcher of some type. Wither Horde is going to be your best because you've got the Break the Bank perk, which allows you to do damage over time with a grenade launcher, which is going to work well with the mod we just got done talking about. You don't need it though. You can use a Pardon Our Dust, which can be found inside the Dares of Eternity, which is free to all players. If you can craft it, get an auto-loading holster enhanced trait with blinding grenades. This is an amazing grenade launcher and really solid. I'd have some kind of a long range option like a sniper, but also, most importantly for a primary, some type of submachine gun for most of the encounters. If you've got a Akelous mini tool or a funnel web, you'll be just fine. On top of that, in the energy slot, I'd make sure that you have Trinity Ghoul. This thing is an absolute beast in certain portions of the dungeon, but also because it's an exotic primary, it will generate heavy ammo if you kill a lot of enemies, which is what this bow does very well. Moving right along, I'd have a sword. It doesn't matter what kind, but this is basically just something that you can have so you can be in the third person while you're platforming. Very easy to do and not too crazy. I'm using the other half, but it does not matter. On top of that, I'd have some type of a rocket launcher. A lot of people have the Hothead Adept rocket launcher with like field prep, which is a really good option. But if you don't have it, you just need an auto-loading rocket launcher. A great example of one that's free to everybody is the Bump in the Night rocket launcher. You can craft it with auto-loading holster as well as getting Frenzy on it, which will work really, really well. Slap on a boss mod spec, and you should be in good shape for rocket launchers for the final boss. You'll need a linear fusion. Some Giga Chads have a really nicely rolled Cataclysmic, or they've crafted one with bait and switch and 4th time's a charm, but you can get the free to everybody Taipan. You want to make sure that you don't use one that has firing line on it since you're not going to be in a fire team. Instead, get triple tap and focused fury. Again, this weapon is free to everybody and you can craft it. Very easy to do. Next up, let's talk about armor pieces. You're going to need an exotic for platforming, a void chest piece. Lorelei Splendor is a potential one, but Syntheseps is probably the most important thing you'll want to have for the final boss because it gives you increased super damage when you're surrounded. This will be a very, very important thing that we'll talk about when we get to the boss. Moving right along, Lorelei Splendor is nice to have, but is not required. It's just a nice safety net to have when you're critically wounded, aka when your life goes in the red. It basically creates a sunspot and starts to heal you, but it is not required. I can't say that enough, but it is very, very helpful and will help you regenerate a lot of your abilities. If you still need a Lorelei Splendor, just go farm a legendary Lost Sector when helmets are the exotic reward, but it will also give you a nice chance to practice your solo skills inside of a tough activity like a dungeon or a legendary Lost Sector. If you want another option, you could certainly do the Heart of Inmost Light build, but what I would recommend is that you make sure that you have a Void Resist mod and a Concussive Dampener mod on whatever chest piece you decide to use inside of the dungeon. It will help out significantly. And if you're doing an arc build, use Curse of the Falling Star for boss damage, especially when you're using solar. Next up, you want to make sure that you have some type of buff, whether it's high energy fire or Font of Might built into your setup. If you use a high energy fire build, make sure that you use Orbs of Light or an elemental charge with wells to get high energy fire together, or use Font of Might and stack up the Font of Might wells. With that, it's your choice, whatever you feel most comfortable in using. For me, I personally like a high energy fire build just because it's easier to manage with all the stuff going on in the dungeon. And like I said before, I used a Sunbreaker with Ember of Torches, where powered melee attacks will make you radiant. Next up, Ember of Singeing, which your class ability will recharge when you scourge targets. That's going to be really nice when using the Laurelly Splendor Helm because it eats your class ability if you take critical damage, and that will help you recharge. Ember of Ashes to apply more Scorch stacks, and Ember of Solace, where Radiant and Restoration effects are applied with a Healing Grenade, and most important, the Throwing Hammer. Now, if you're a controller player, you know the issue. When you're far away from enemies and you throw the hammer, you can hit them, but as soon as you get close, by default, you use your uncharged melee. So what you need to do is go into your controller settings, go to the button layout section, and choose custom. From there, you can choose how you want to interact with your charged melee or your uncharged melee. For the charged melee, I like a long press to kind of simulate my arm rotating to throw the hammer, and a double press to imagine like I'm punching and using my fists. So right here, you can see I can run right up to enemies and use my hammers if I want, or I can use my uncharged melee if I choose to do that. I get a lot of console and controller players who ask me how to deal with that or what I should do, and there you go. Now that we've got all our gear, it's time to hop into the dungeon and get this thing nailed down. There's an opening section where you just jump to a couple of rocks, just run past there until you get to the conduit minotaurs that spawn here by the spire entrance. When you kill them, they're going to leave a large circular field that is going to give you an attrition buff for 30 seconds. With that buff, you need to go charge the arc lines. You can see the starting nodes because they'll have arrows on them, and you need to follow the lines across. Here in the video, I've put together a path for you to run on this opening. If you need to, slow it down using the YouTube settings, but I've sped it up because not everyone wants to watch this entire thing. They know where they need to stand. But for me, this route is the safest. You will note that I am not actually hitting the final node in any of these lines. The reason I'm doing that is because this will keep the supplicants, which are the exploding enemies, from spawning up. All you have to deal with here are a couple of the cyclopses that are shooting from a distance, some goblins and a minotaur or two, and a couple of other harpies that are just shooting at you. You don't really have to worry about them as long as you keep moving forward. Some people do like killing the cyclopses up on top. I don't think you need to do that. Just keep moving and you will be absolutely fine. This starting node is just a little bit funny. It's down below in the hole down below, and just follow the path that you see here on screen. And I've shown you the starting points in this video here, and I've connected all the lines. Again, just slow down the YouTube video if you need to figure out where they are. Once you have all of them taken care of, you can hit the final nodes. You'll see some of the enemies start to spawn, but then because you've done all 4 of the lines, you can easily just get all of them despawned, and you can move on to the next section inside the jumping puzzle. Now, this is a stupid way to die here if you die at the fall at this section. One thing you can do to slow down is just pull out your sword and swipe at the tail end like there, or block. Swiping seems to do the best. Now, I'm going to be going through the jumping puzzle and showing you in the video where the Devilish Recordings are. Those are the secret triumphs that you need for the seal. However, there's only one way to go forward, so we're going to speed it up. When you get to the reactor room, go down below in the reactor firewall area, and the second recording will be right there, and then jump up into the jumping puzzle area. Right here, this is a great opportunity for Trinity Ghoul to do some work. With bows being anti-barrier, this season you can take care of the Hydra that's shooting at you, or you can use a sniper if you so choose. Both are great options, but when you're doing the jumping puzzle, you don't really want to be fighting all these snipers and different enemies, so take a second and knock them out. Take out a sword so you can see yourself in third person. This opening set of platforms is a little bit tough. There's just a few little pieces of in-game geometry, like this little spot right here that you can get stuck in, which can create a problem if you can't actually see where you're supposed to stand. When you get up to this platform here, you'll see a bunch of harpies that have spawned. Again, knock them out so you don't have to deal with them when you jump up. As you go to the next platform, hop up onto this little spot there, then jump to the next platform so you don't block yourself from doing it. Now, if you are on a Titan, you can certainly use an eager edge swipe to go over there, but the easier way is just to do it like you're supposed to do it. There's a little platform right here and make your way around. As you come up to this upper area, there's a hidden little platform over on your right hand side that you can follow. Not only will this take you to the next Devilish Recording, but it will also take you to the secret chest, the first one, which is right over on the right hand side. Now, the way that the secret chest works is just like other dungeons and raids. If you've never picked up any piece of gear, you won't get anything from this. So I recommend saving that chest until you actually get a piece of gear, and so that you can actually get a piece of weaponry or armor from that. This next section, I'd say just skip all these enemies. You don't really need to fight them. The one set of enemies that you need to fight is down here if you need to get the next Devilish Recording. These guys can be a little bit annoying and can knock you out, but instead of going up, go over to the left-hand side and you'll find the next Devilish Recording. You might get sniped a little bit, but the truth is no big deal here. Again, I recommend if you're on a Titan, having Lion Rampants so that you can make the jump with a lot of comfort and no big issues. Keep following the path all the way until you find the rally flag area. There's a little bit of a jumping puzzle, but nothing major. You can all figure that out. And next up, we've got the next Devilish Recording here. At that point, rally a flag here. You can use pretty much whatever weapons you want, but this is the first actual encounter in the dungeon. It's very simple, very similar to opening the door. Kill the Minotaur, get the Arctrician buff, and then activate all the nodes, also known as connect the dots. Now, instead of showing you each individual arc line, I'm instead going to show you the path that you should do solo. Activate those 2 boxes and then shoot the one to the left, but then go to the right and then follow the path that you see here on screen here. Kill those enemies so that you don't have any issues. At this point, shoot the node that is way up above. There's another node way up above, and again over here by the steps, and then you're good to go. Make your way around and then just follow the line here. Nothing major. Again, if this is too fast, just use the YouTube slow down tool so that you can slow down the speed. It's very easy to do, but I want to keep this video under a half hour because the YouTube algorithm doesn't really like super long videos, and I want to give you the maximum amount of detail in the shortest amount of time to save you some time so you can practice this on your own. Once you get to the second floor, head over to the left-hand side, and then you'll see the actual nodes that you start in this room with electrical energy. If you do decide to go in there, be careful because you can die to that very easily. Jump over to this platform once you've activated those first 2 nodes, and you should be good. Here's another node inside an electrical room. Again, this part is pretty easy, and you don't have to go inside of the electrical room to actually activate them. This is the toughest node right here, around the corner, behind, off the edge on this opposite side. Nothing major here, and if you do want to kill the Hydra in this section, you certainly can. The cool thing about this encounter is that if you want to get comfortable with soloing the dungeon, you can do this encounter over and over and over and farm it for armor and gear if you so choose. Once you get the buff, 1 node will be right in front of you, and again, follow the path right here. This section, there will be a lot more of extended jumping, so again, Lion Rampants are very nice, especially if you're not comfortable with platforming. Continue to follow the path here. If you do decide to hit the final nodes, there will be supplicants and another Hydra that will spawn, so do so at your risk. I knew this path pretty well, so I took a second and went through it as quickly as I possibly could. Hit that final node, and then you get my chest, and all of the enemies will despawn. It's a pretty easy encounter to do and a good setup for the mechanic for this entire dungeon. Now, instead of jumping up and going to the next encounter, go and find the Devilish Recording terminal. It's going to be one of the only terminals that are on in this area. It's very easy to find. When you're ready, jump on up to this platform here. There'll be a switch you'll need to hit, and then the window will open, and you need to make your way on top of the window. There are a lot of kill zones here, and this little platform has killed me once or twice, and it's killed a lot of other people too, so just be careful as you make your way on up to the rally flag and the second encounter. Before you rally, make sure you're using a chest piece with extra reserves. In this case, that's going to be a linear fusion. Again, if you've got a great cataclysmic, feel free to use it, but we're going to be using the Taipan in this example, Akelous mini tool, and Wither Horde. The goal here for boss damage is to debuff the boss, then use linears to do tons and tons of damage. Make sure you have a buff setup with the way you like it, whether you want to use high energy fire or font of might, whatever works for you. All right, it's time for the Harpy, aka Akelous. There are 4 long platforms that extend past the main area. The mechanic is the same. Kill a Minotaur, get the Arctrician buff, and then activate the arc lines. This is pretty easy here to figure out where the starting nodes are because they're all on top of this central area here. Now, instead of showing you each individual line, I'm going to just show you a path all the way around the entire area, and I'm going to show you a couple of tricks too. And the first one is that you don't actually have to shoot directly at the node. It literally just has to hit the side where the node is and you'll be good to go. As soon as you complete a line, one of the fuel rods will deactivate. When you do that, every other platform that has a fuel rod that is not active will spawn a bunch of harpies. Once you activate them, do not kill the harpies. Just leave them alone and run past them. If you kill them, they will respawn every time you activate a node. So there's no reason to kill them. Save some time, run away from them, and just keep moving. Keep following the path that you see here on screen. Now, this node that I'm going to activate is not connected to the line I'm focused on, but that's okay because all I'm really trying to do is extend the buff that is on a timer. And by doing that, I can activate those 2 nodes, jump up and move to the next 2 nodes very easily and kill a couple of these enemies to continue getting ammo or other things like that. It also provides some cover from the harpies who are trying to shoot me. Now, you'll notice I activated a fuel rod. No more harpies spawned because I didn't kill them. We are going to kill them before we do boss damage, so don't worry about that. But having them all in one big group is going to help us out in killing them a little bit later. Jump onto this platform, shoot this node here, and we're going to do the same thing we did over on the other platform where we activate a node that's not technically part of the line we're focused on, but again, it helps us to charge our timer. Every time you hit one of the nodes, you would get an extra 5 seconds. So by doing this, this extends your time, and then you can finish getting the rest of the nodes on this platform. Now that I've activated the 3 fuel rods, if I kill all the harpies now, it's not a big deal because they won't respawn when I get the 4th fuel rod. So get that Trinity Ghoul out, and you're going to absolutely annihilate all the harpies. What's great about this is the chaining arc energy from the bow will actually kill them since they're in groups. And because you're using an exotic primary, if you need more heavy ammo in between different damage phases, you can kill other enemies and be good to go and get some heavy ammo. Switch to the weapons that you are going to use for boss damage before you go to the 4th pylon. At this point, I'm going to actually come over here because you can see I've got that node taken care of. I'm just getting a good line of sight on all of these different nodes. I'm going to come over here and get the 4th node, but I'm not going to get the 5th node right away. I'm going to take a second and get ready for boss damage. Use all of the enemies that are around here to make sure you have your buff set up, whether you use high energy fire or a font of might, and make sure that the conduit minotaur up on top is dead because he will chase you down. Don't shoot that conduit minotaur that is around the way. If you do shoot them, they will chase you down during boss damage. When you're ready, when you have the Artisan buff, shoot the final node and get set up to shoot the eyes. You need to blow up all of his eyes so you can get to the damage phase a little bit faster. I tested this a couple of times, hitting him with a grenade. Sometimes it empowered me and gave me a buff, sometimes it didn't. But basically what you need to do, shoot the eyes as fast as possible to get a long damage phase. Once you've got all the eyes dead, hit him with the Wither Horde and then hit him with your linear fusion as much as you possibly can. Here, I get a really good damage phase because the Viced perk works a couple of times in my favor. Do be careful of any Vex bodies that are on the platform because they can actually take the damage of the shot. And right there, you can see I did a really, really nice damage phase. But no matter what, it's going to take multiple damage phases to kill the boss. If you want to do an arc setup, change to the Cuirass of the Falling Star. And if you really don't like aiming, just use Thunderlord. You can literally just spam the boss with Thunderlord if you've got the exotic catalyst all set up, and basically just spam the boss with the Cuirass, Thunder Crash, and Thunderlord. I did about 1/5 of the damage just by using that. But most people are going to be using linears and take care of the boss and make it an easy GG. Biggest thing there, just make sure you hit the boss with a grenade, whether it's Wither Horde or Pardon Our Dust or any other grenade launcher to get a buff. Now, when we go to the next section, switch to Trinity Ghoul and then go into the descent area. There's only one way you can go, so I'm going to speed this up again. So there's going to be 3 floors of enemies that you're going to need to fight, and they're going to have a lot of exploders and things like that. Using the Trinity Ghoul is borderline cheating. You can basically kill all of the different enemies if you've got the Trinity Ghoul catalyst, but even if you don't, it does a nice job of chaining everything, and you basically kill all the enemies until the Conduit Minotaur spawns. And then once you get his Arctrician buff, you'll need to hit the red arc lines. Basically, you just need to hit all 5 of them within a certain period of time, and they will activate. In these first 2 rooms, they have kind of a W-shape look around them. Basically, just follow the lines together and stand where I'm standing, and you'll easily be able to find them. Then jump down into the fan rooms. Now, some people have been asking me how I deal with the fans. There's nothing worse than doing really well on a dungeon and dying to a stupid environmental mechanic. Biggest thing, jump the same direction the fans are going and try to get yourself set up on the very edge of the platform right beneath where you need to jump to. Go through the path here. We've got another floor of a bajillion enemies you need to kill, Trinity Ghoul them, and then get the Conduit Minotaur, get the buff, and jump down to where the red lines make kind of a shallow U shape right down here. From here, you'll be able to shoot all 5 of them. You might have to wiggle a little bit to get all 5 of the nodes, but they're pretty easy to see from here. The third one, which is way up in the middle, is very, very high, so just watch out for that and you'll be in good shape. Get all 5 of the nodes, the door will open and jump on down, and you've got another set of fans. Now this set of fans do the same thing, but come out onto this little area here. You can stand here safely and not die. Do the same thing we did before, follow the path of the fans, and be on the edge as well, because if you're closer to the center, the chances of you hitting the fan are higher. Down here, aim for the center because there's no safe platform to be. So you just go to the center little part of the fan and then walk on this wire that connects the part together and jump on down. This is the final room before the final boss encounter. There's going to be a bunch of enemies, a Hydra. Nothing major here. Just make sure that you kill the enemies before they kill you using Trinity Ghoul. Once you get the conduit buff, follow the buff that you can see here on screen. Kill the Hydra because there is going to be a node in the very middle area where the electrical energy is going. Before you jump down to the boss area, turn around and go to the left-hand side. There's going to be a little grate underneath the stairs. At that point, pop it open, slide on through, and you'll find your second secret chest. Go back, jump down, and then you'll be at the final boss room. All right, we're going to get set up. This is going to be a little bit different. We're going to be using a Wither Horde blinding grenade launcher, a Void chest piece, a rocket with the auto-loading field prep, and the Syntheseps arms. Make sure that you have scavengers for rockets, and you should be good. Again, before you rally, switch to a chest piece with heavy ammo reserves. All right, it's Persys, the final boss in the dungeon and the area that most people struggle with. There's a ton of things to juggle, and most of the time I've seen encounters end like this. However, this encounter is not nearly as hard as it seems. Here's a couple of things that people misunderstand. A lot of videos miss this. You control where the boss goes, and also the main damage comes from your super. So here's what you need to do. You need to open up the big reactor door, connect the arc lines, do damage, and repeat. There's really nothing much more to it than that. I know that makes it seem really easy, but one quick thing about where you can take breaks. As long as you chase out all the different enemies, as long as you sit in the reactor room and sit back, there are no enemies. So when you first start the encounter, sit back until the reactor doors on the sides open and then get in there and take care of everything else. Now, like I said before, you get to control where the boss goes, and a lot of people don't understand that, and I haven't heard any videos actually talking about that. One cool thing about this is that right here, you notice that I'm staying to the left side of the door. If you stay on this left side of the door or the inside of the 2 side doors, you can do damage as much as you want, but as soon as you move to the outsides, the boss will start to chase you. So stay to the inside areas of those reactor doors and kill all of those different enemies and the Hydras, and you'll be good to go. At that point, the Conduit Minotaurs spawn up, and when you're ready to go out and open the door, you'll need to move forward fast. This is the area where I see most people struggle the most, because this is usually where they die to either a supplicant or the boss or anything else like that. But there's an easy way to fight this. Just use the process I'm showing you on screen right now. I call this doing the loop. Let's show it to you in slow motion. We're going to kill the Minotaur. The boss is coming at us right over here. Instead of going towards him, we're going to round the corner and put a grenade or a Wither Horde shot right there, which will kill all of those supplicants. At that point, go to this area here next to this barricade, get all 5 of the nodes activated, and you're good to go. I was completely safe, and the boss never put me in any kind of danger at all. Now, this is very important. Kill the supplicants, but leave the goblins. With this setup, we want to leave those goblins because they're going to help us out when we're doing damage to the boss. We'll explain that here in a little bit. Once you have the door open, then you need to check the different columns on the 2 sides of the rooms and read the arc lines. I can't emphasize enough to keep moving. There's 2 columns on the right and 2 columns on the left, and between those 4 columns, 2 of the nodes are going to be randomly chosen to be the open nodes that you need to activate to do boss damage. I like to think of some of them as the outside or the inside lanes when you're activating the arc nodes. The big thing here is just to memorize them as soon as you can. What I showed on screen before was the inside right. Here, this is the outside left lane. So here you can see that I'm going basically on the outside of the map. While I'm doing this, I'm keeping the boss as far away from me and behind cover as I possibly can. When you go into the reactor room, sometimes the lines will crisscross, so you just need to watch yourself and memorize those as quickly as possible. When you get in here, there's going to be some supplicants that may try to kill you. If you see 2 of them, kill at least 1 and you'll be able to tank the other guy. All right, when you've activated the final node, it is time for boss damage. You'll want to activate all 5 of the nodes when they open to make sure that the door closes. And during that, you want to keep Roaring Flames ×3 up. You can either kill the Minotaurs, or if there's a couple of extra goblins around, you can kill them. But you want to keep a couple of goblins around you. That's going to help empower your Syntheseps and your super. So first things first, use your Wither Horde or your grenade to debuff, use 1 or 2 rockets, and then spam your super while you are close to some of those goblins. By doing that, you're going to empower your super and do a lot of damage with Syntheseps. Once you're done there, spam your Wither Horde really quickly to give you more of a damage buff, do whatever rockets you can, and then head back into the reactor room as quickly as you possibly can. Be ready for a couple of supplicants or enemies to meet you as you go through the reactor room, but when you kill them, when you get in the reactor room, the doors will close and you will be able to be safe. At this point, you just repeat the process over and over and over until the boss dies, and then you're set. Open the doors, activate 2 of the lines, whichever ones are activated, and then make sure you do really good boss damage and you're in good shape. On screen now, I'm showing both of the right side lanes as we activate these arc nodes. I'd also recommend that you don't try to do this right away. Try to farm some of the enemies for super, and then it will also help you get to know the lanes a little bit better as well. My buddy holding a grenade made a map of the different lines inside of the boss room, but this is really just a starting point. When you're doing the Solo Flawless, you don't really want to be looking at this map. You really want to get an idea of where these are when you're in the space. The positives that you see on the maps are super high up, way up above you, and then the minuses are down below your line of sight. You can always just pause this and use this as a frame of reference, but this is really just a good starting point. The more you do this, the more you will memorize where they will be, and the easier you'll be able to get damage phases in. And that's it, guys. Always keep the boss away from you, never stop moving, and the biggest thing is don't get frustrated if you have to do multiple damage phases. This boss is tanky, and no matter what, you're going to be doing a ton of damage. Make sure that you amplify your super damage by making sure that you're surrounded with Syntheseps. If you miss a node, it's not a big deal. Just head into the room where the boss isn't and then take a quick look, follow the node, and with more experience, you'll be able to get this emblem, get a Solo Flawless, farm this as much as you possibly want, and say GG to the Spire of the Watcher dungeon. If you liked something inside this video, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. If you need more help, leave a comment down below or join me over at twitch.tv/ManoDestra. Good hunting, Guardians. I'll see you next time in the universe of Destiny.